Going to Mom's, she's sick, Jessica texted while packing her overnight bag. I kissed her goodbye, watching her wheel her suitcase toward the Uber. Hope she gets better soon, I replied, meaning it. 20 minutes later, I was scrolling through social media when I saw it. Her mother's Instagram post from a beach in Cancun, margarita in hand, #blessed. My blood turned to ice. I stared at the phone screen until the words blurred. Sick mother. Cancun vacation. The math wasn't adding up, and I'd spent 12 years in military logistics before landing this airport operations job. I knew how to spot inconsistencies. My fingers moved without conscious thought, opening the airline employee portal. Senior operations manager privileges had their perks. Jessica's employee ID pulled up her flight manifest within seconds. Miami International. Departure gate B7. Return Sunday evening. She's visiting her sick mother. Right. The same mother currently posting bikini shots from Cancun. Medical miracle. Sleep eluded me that night. I lay in our bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying months of sick relatives and mandatory crew training weekends. My analytical mind, trained by years of coordinating flight schedules and logistics, began connecting dots I'd deliberately ignored. The next morning at Metropolitan International, I pulled up Premier Airways' crew scheduling system. Standard protocol for coordinating gate assignments, but tonight I had different motives. Flight attendant Jessica Torres, employee ID 47291. Her assignment history painted an interesting picture. Chicago to Miami, Phoenix to Las Vegas, Seattle to Denver. Always paired with the same flights, always returning Sunday evenings with stories about exhausted relatives recovering from mysterious ailments. Cross-referencing pilot assignments took 30 seconds. Captain Dylan Brooks, license number ATP8847. Same flights, same destinations, same return schedule. My coffee grew cold as I scrolled through months of data. They weren't even trying to hide it professionally, just personally, from the spouses stupid enough to believe them. Interesting reading? I spun around. Tom Bradley from security stood behind me, holding his own steaming mug. We'd worked together for 3 years, former military brotherhood making us natural allies. Research project, I said carefully. Tom glanced at my screen, then at my face. The kind that keeps you up at night? I nodded. Need any help with that research? Tom's help came in the form of archived CCTV footage. Security cameras captured everything in airports, and with proper authorization, those recordings became powerful tools. Gate B12, last Tuesday, Tom said, queuing up the file. This what you're looking for? The monitor flickered to life. There was Jessica, radiant in her flight attendant uniform, standing close to a tall man in a pilot's cap. Too close. His hand rested on her lower back. She leaned into him, laughing at something he whispered in her ear. Captain Dylan Brooks. I'd seen his employee photo. 38 years old, 15-year veteran with Premier Airways, married with 2 children. The last detail I'd discovered through airport employee emergency contact records. Want to see more? Tom asked quietly. I nodded, unable to speak. The footage continued. Jessica and Dylan walking through the terminal, his arm around her shoulders, sharing a meal in the premium lounge. Their goodbye kiss before boarding, not a professional peck, but the kind reserved for lovers. How long? I managed. This particular recording? 8 months ago, but I can pull more if you need it. 8 months. While I'd been working double shifts to save for the house down payment she kept talking about, she'd been playing house with someone else. Tom, I need a favor. Name it. I need to know everything about Captain Dylan Brooks. Everything. I stared at the frozen screen showing Jessica wrapped in another man's arms at gate B12. My hands shook as I realized I'd been the fool for 8 months. But then something cold settled in my chest. She wanted to play games with flight schedules? I wrote the book on airport operations. The prey was about to become the predator. Dylan Brooks lived at 1247 Maple Ridge Drive in suburban Hillcrest. His wife Emma worked at Children's Memorial Hospital as a pediatric nurse. 2 kids, Ashley, 8, and Connor, 5. The family photos on Emma's Facebook showed a woman who smiled with her eyes, someone who believed in the life she'd built. I knew that feeling. Finding Emma required delicate maneuvering. Direct contact would raise suspicions, but I needed to gauge whether she suspected her husband's infidelity. Hospital cafeterias were public spaces. Casual meetings could appear coincidental. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" Emma Brooks looked up from her salad, tired eyes focusing on my face. Even exhausted from a 12-hour shift, she possessed the kind of genuine warmth that made children trust her instantly. "Please sit." She gestured to the empty chair. "You look familiar. Do we know each other?" "Michael Torres. I work at Metropolitan International Airport, Operations Management." I'd rehearsed this introduction, keeping it casual but informative. "Oh, the airport. My husband Dylan's a pilot there. Well, not based there, but he flies through regularly." "Premier Airways?" "That's right." Her smile was proud, unguarded. 15 years with them. He loves the job, loves traveling. She paused. Though sometimes I think he loves it a little too much. The opening I'd been hoping for. "Too much travel?" Emma's expression shifted slightly, a shadow crossing her features. He's been taking a lot of extra shifts lately. Weekend trips, overnight layovers. I understand the industry's demanding, but..." She trailed off, shaking her head. "I'm sorry. You don't need to hear about my marriage troubles." "No troubles," I said carefully. "Just the challenges of aviation life. My wife's a flight attendant. Similar issues." "Really? Which airline?" "Premier Airways." Emma's face lit up. "Maybe they know each other. What's her name?" I met her eyes steadily. "Jessica Torres." The color drained from Emma's face. She set down her fork with mechanical precision, her nurse's training keeping her outwardly composed even as her world tilted. "Torres," she repeated softly. "Emma, I think we need to talk. Privately." We moved to a quiet corner of the hospital courtyard. I showed her the CCTV footage on my phone, watched her face crumble as she recognized her husband's body language, his intimate gestures with my wife. "How long have you known?" she whispered. 2 days. You. I didn't know. Not for certain. Her voice grew stronger. But the signs were there. Credit card charges from cities he never mentioned visiting. Cologne that wasn't his usual brand. Late-night phone calls he'd take in the garage. Emma stared at the phone screen, showing Dylan's hand on Jessica's face, his lips against her ear. 8 months of extra shifts. 8 months of mandatory training weekends and weather delays. "Emma, I'm sorry you had to find out this way." She looked up, and I saw something shift behind her eyes. The grief was transforming into something harder, more focused. "Are you planning to confront them?" "I'm planning to destroy them." Her smile was sharp enough to cut glass. "Good. How can I help?" Emma Brooks proved to be a formidable ally. Pediatric nurses developed patience, attention to detail, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. Useful qualities for covert operations. "Dylan keeps his laptop in the home office," she said during our second meeting. "Password protected, but he's not very creative. I can access it tonight after he leaves for his Thursday route." "What's his Thursday route?" "Chicago to Denver, overnight layover, back Friday evening. He's been taking it regularly for the past 6 months." I cross-referenced the schedule. Jessica had Thursday training sessions she couldn't miss. Funny how her training coincided with Dylan's layovers. "Emma, when you access his computer, look for communication with Jessica. Emails, messages, anything. Also, check his browser history and any saved passwords." "What are you looking for specifically?" Evidence of expense fraud. If they're using company resources for personal trips, we can involve their employers. Adultery might be morally wrong, but corporate theft is criminally prosecutable. Emma nodded, her professional composure masking the fury underneath. What about financial records? Bank statements, credit card bills, anything showing unusual expenses. If he's been redirecting household funds to finance this affair, that's theft too. That evening, Emma called with an update. Michael, you need to see this. Dylan's been using his corporate credit card for hotel rooms, dinners, even jewelry purchases. Thousands of dollars over the past 8 months. Can you document everything? Already printing copies. But there's more. I found email exchanges between Dylan and Jessica. They're planning something bigger. What kind of bigger? A week-long trip to the Bahamas, next month. They're using accumulated vacation days and planning to tell us they're attending separate training conferences. The final piece clicked into place. Emma, they're not just having an affair. They're planning their exit strategy. She was quiet for a moment. What do you mean? Think about it. A week-long trip, expensive destination, coordinated stories. They're not just cheating. They're planning to leave us together. Over my dead body. Her voice carried the cold determination of a woman who'd spent years protecting children from harm. Now she was protecting her own children from a father who'd already abandoned them emotionally. Emma, are you ready to play hardball? I've been ready since I saw that footage. What's the plan? I have to visit Aunt Margaret this weekend, Jessica announced Friday morning, not meeting my eyes. She's in the hospital again. Complications from her surgery. I nodded sympathetically, buttering my toast with deliberate care. That's terrible. Which hospital? General Memorial, in Phoenix. Phoenix. I'd already checked Dylan's flight schedule. Chicago to Nassau, Bahamas. Departure, Saturday morning. Return, Monday evening. Jessica's lies were becoming lazy, overconfident. Should I come with you? Provide moral support? Panic flickered across her face. No. She's very weak, can't handle too many visitors. The doctors are limiting access to immediate family only. Of course. I understand. I kissed her cheek, tasting the betrayal. Give her my regards. After Jessica left for work, I called Emma. They're leaving tomorrow for Nassau. 4-day weekend in paradise while we sit at home worried about imaginary sick relatives. Dylan told me he's got mandatory recertification training in Dallas. 4 days of simulator work and written exams. Perfect. While they're playing house in the Caribbean, we'll be dismantling their lives at home. What's the timeline? I pulled up Dylan's flight information on my computer. Their flight departs at 8:47 a.m. Saturday, connecting through Miami, arriving in Nassau at 3:15 p.m. local time. That gives us Saturday, Sunday, and Monday to work. And they won't be able to contact anyone? Not easily. International roaming is expensive, and resort Wi-Fi is notoriously unreliable. By the time they realize something's wrong, it'll be too late to stop us. Emma was quiet for a moment. Michael, are you sure about this? Once we start, there's no going back. I thought about 8 months of lies, 8 months of stolen money, 8 months of playing the fool while my wife built a future with someone else. Emma, I've never been more certain of anything in my life. Then let's destroy them. Saturday morning, 9:30 a.m. I confirmed Jessica and Dylan's departure through airport tracking systems before initiating phase 1 of our counterattack. Joint bank accounts required only one signature for closure. I withdrew Jessica's half of our savings, leaving her account with exactly $17, enough to avoid overdraft fees but not much else. The money transferred to a new account she couldn't access. Emma worked simultaneously from her end. Dylan's paycheck, direct deposit, their shared credit cards, even his corporate fuel card, everything locked down or canceled within 2 hours. Done on my end, Emma reported via secure phone call. Dylan's corporate card has been flagged for suspicious activity. I reported the jewelry purchase and hotel charges to Premier Airways' fraud department. Excellent. I've canceled Jessica's return flight ticket and removed her name from our auto insurance policy. Technically, she's no longer covered to drive my car. Legal? Completely. Spouses can modify joint accounts and insurance policies without consent. I've documented everything for our lawyers. The beauty of systematic destruction was its legal simplicity. Every action we took was perfectly within our rights as spouses. Morally questionable, perhaps, but legally bulletproof. Phase 2? Emma asked. Professional annihilation. Your husband thinks his job makes him untouchable. Let's test that theory. Monday morning brought the satisfaction of watching dominoes fall. I'd spent Sunday evening crafting anonymous reports to Premier Airways management, the FAA, and airport security. All meticulously documented, all completely factual. Flight crew fraternization policies existed for good reasons. Power dynamics between pilots and flight attendants could compromise safety, create workplace harassment situations, and damage company reputations. Dylan and Jessica had violated every protocol in the book. Mr. Torres, this is Patricia Hawkins from Premier Airways Human Resources. Could we schedule a meeting regarding information you provided about employee conduct violations? Of course, Ms. Hawkins. I'm available at your convenience. This afternoon, if possible. The allegations are quite serious. Emma received a similar call an hour later. Dylan's expense account irregularities had triggered a corporate investigation that expanded rapidly once auditors started digging. They want me to provide bank statements showing unusual charges, Emma explained. Apparently, Dylan's corporate card spending patterns raised red flags in multiple departments. How many departments? Accounting found the fraudulent expenses. HR discovered the relationship with Jessica. Legal is reviewing potential contract violations, and security is investigating whether company resources were used for personal travel. The professional destruction was proceeding faster than anticipated. Corporate bureaucracy, usually glacially slow, moved with surprising speed when protecting company assets and reputation. My phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. Michael, this is urgent. Need to talk immediately. Something terrible is happening. Jay. I smiled, deleting the message without responding. She had no idea this was just the beginning. As I canceled Jessica's return flight ticket, watching the booking canceled confirmation flash on my screen, my phone buzzed again. Text from Jessica. Having amazing time. Thank you for being so understanding. I smiled for the first time in months. She had no idea she was about to be stranded in paradise. Tuesday morning, Nassau International Airport. I watched through remote security cameras as Jessica and Dylan approached the Premier Airways check-in counter, rolling their luggage with the casual confidence of frequent travelers. The counter agent's expression shifted as she reviewed their tickets. Confusion first, then concern, finally professional disappointment as she delivered the news. I'm sorry, but these reservations have been canceled. Your payment method was declined for the return portions of your tickets. Dylan's face reddened as he pulled out his corporate credit card. Run it again. There must be some mistake. Sir, I've tried multiple times. The card is showing as suspended pending investigation. Jessica fumbled for her personal card, hands shaking slightly as the reality of their situation began to register. Try this one. Ma'am, this card is also being declined. Additionally, I'm showing a hold on both of your employee travel privileges pending internal investigation. Through the security monitor, I watched Dylan's composure crack. He grabbed the counter agent's arm, raising his voice in a way that immediately attracted airport security attention. This is ridiculous. I'm a 15-year veteran pilot with this airline. You can't strand us here over some administrative error. Sir, I need you to step away from the counter. Security is on the way to escort you to the airport manager's office. Jessica backed away from Dylan, finally understanding that their problems extended beyond simple payment issues. Her phone calls to me were going straight to voicemail. Her credit cards weren't working, and now Dylan was creating a scene that would attract official attention. The pilot who thought he owned the skies was about to learn what it felt like to be permanently grounded. "Michael, answer your phone. Something's wrong with everything. My cards, my tickets, Dylan's losing his mind, and security is here. Please, I can explain everything. Just help me get home, and we can work this out." Jessica's voicemail messages grew increasingly desperate as Tuesday afternoon stretched into evening. I listened to each one with clinical detachment, documenting her admissions of deception for potential legal proceedings. Emma and I met at a neutral location to monitor the situation and coordinate our next moves. "Dylan managed to call me from the airport," she reported, screaming about frozen accounts and canceled flights. "When I told him I knew about the affair, he actually had the audacity to blame me for not being supportive enough of his career." "How did you respond?" "I hung up and blocked his number. Let him figure out his own transportation home." My phone rang. Unknown international number. "Michael, thank God. Listen, there's been some kind of mistake with our accounts. Jessica and I are stranded in Nassau and need help getting home. Can you contact Premier Airways and straighten this out? Captain Dylan Brooks, reduced to begging his victim for assistance." The irony was delicious. "Dylan, let me ask you something. Do you think I'm stupid?" Silence on the other end. "Do you think I don't know about the past 8 months? The hotels, the stolen money, the lies to both our spouses?" "Michael, I can explain." "No explanation necessary. You and Jessica made your choice. Now live with the consequences. You can't leave us here. This is kidnapping or something. Actually, it's justice. You're free to leave Nassau anytime you want. Just pay for your own transportation home instead of stealing from your wife and employer." I ended the call and immediately blocked the number. Wednesday morning brought media attention we hadn't anticipated. A local Nassau news outlet picked up the story of 2 American airline employees stranded due to corporate expense fraud investigation. The article included Dylan and Jessica's names, photos, and employment details. Premier Airways pilot and flight attendant detained in Nassau amid fraud investigation. Emma read from her laptop. Well, they're famous now. The story gained traction on aviation industry websites and social media platforms. Professional pilots' forums discussed Dylan's career-ending violations. Flight attendant groups debated Jessica's ethical breaches. Both faced industry-wide professional exile. "Emma, we need to prepare for their return. They'll eventually find a way home, and when they do, they'll be desperate and angry." "What kind of preparation?" "Legal protection. Restraining orders if necessary. Dylan's already shown aggressive tendencies, and Jessica's going to realize the full extent of her losses soon." "What about the divorce proceedings?" "Already initiated. With documented evidence of adultery, financial fraud, and abandoned assets, both cases should be straightforward. No-fault states still consider marital misconduct during asset division." Emma nodded grimly. "The children are staying with my parents until this settles down. I don't want them exposed to Dylan's reaction when he finally gets home." My phone buzzed with yet another blocked number attempting to contact me. I ignored it, focusing instead on the airport security report Tom had sent over. "Michael, you need to see this. Dylan and Jessica tried to charter a private flight home. When the charter company ran their credit checks, everything came back flagged for fraud investigation. Now they're stuck in Nassau with no money, no credit, and no way home except commercial airlines that won't accept them. Perfect. Let them experience the helplessness they'd inflicted on us." Through the security monitor, I watched Jessica collapse in the terminal chair as Dylan paced frantically on his phone. 2 security guards approached them. The pilot who thought he owned the skies was about to learn what it felt like to be grounded permanently. But their nightmare was just beginning. Thursday brought the news I'd been expecting. Dylan and Jessica, unable to secure legitimate transportation home and facing mounting pressure from Bahamian immigration authorities, had attempted to board a cargo flight using Dylan's expired pilot credentials. The attempt backfired spectacularly. Impersonating an active pilot qualified as federal fraud, transforming their civil troubles into potential criminal charges. Both were detained by Nassau police pending investigation. They're in actual jail now, Tom reported during his morning call. The Bahamian authorities take aviation security very seriously, especially after someone tries to board flights illegally. Emma and I met at our lawyer's office to review the latest developments. With criminal charges pending in another country, both divorce cases become significantly more straightforward, our attorney explained. Courts rarely award assets to spouses facing international fraud charges. What about their eventual return to the United States? Federal authorities are watching the situation. If they're charged criminally in the Bahamas, they may face additional charges here for the corporate expense fraud. My phone rang. International number, different from previous attempts. Michael, this is Jessica. I'm calling from a police station. They're saying we committed fraud by trying to board that cargo plane. I need you to contact the American consulate and help us get home. Her voice carried the desperate edge of someone finally understanding the magnitude of their situation. Jessica, do you remember what you told me 8 months ago when I suggested we start planning for our future together? What? Michael, I don't have time for games. I'm in jail. You said we had plenty of time, that we shouldn't rush into anything, that we needed to enjoy life while we were young. Do you remember that? Silence. I'm enjoying life now, Jessica. I'm taking my time, not rushing into anything. Michael, please. I hung up and powered off my phone. Friday evening, Miami International Airport. Tom's security contacts provided real-time updates on Dylan and Jessica's transport back to American soil, courtesy of a deportation flight after spending 2 days in Bahamian custody. They arrived in handcuffs, federal marshals escorting them through customs towards separate interrogation rooms. Premier Airways corporate security waited with termination paperwork and criminal complaints for expense fraud. Emma and I watched from the observation area as our former spouses faced the consequences of their choices. Any regrets? Emma asked quietly. I considered the question seriously. About the methods? Sometimes. About the outcome? Never. Dylan caught sight of Emma through the security glass, his face contorted with rage as he began shouting inaudibly, straining against his restraints. Jessica appeared more broken than angry, finally understanding that her charm and manipulation had lost their power. Look at them, Emma observed. Yesterday they thought they were so clever, playing us for fools while they lived their fantasy. Today they're discovering what real consequences look like. Federal agents separated them for individual questioning. The investigation would determine whether criminal charges would be filed for the corporate expense fraud, but their careers were already over. No airline would hire employees with pending fraud investigations. As we prepared to leave the observation area, Jessica looked up and spotted me through the glass partition. Her expression shifted from desperation to something approaching recognition of her complete defeat. I raised my coffee cup in a mock toast. Her face crumpled with the realization that her victim had orchestrated her destruction. Dylan shouted something I couldn't hear, his words lost behind the soundproof security barrier. The automatic doors closed behind them with a satisfying finality. Game over. The underdog had won. Standing in the airport observation deck, watching their police escort through the terminal below, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Complete satisfaction. They'd played their games with flight schedules and stolen money, manipulated emotions, and broken trust. But they'd forgotten one crucial detail. I wrote the book on airport operations. The terminal had become their prison, and I held all the keys.